really I really feel for the American people because they're constantly getting gaslit that they're the laziest people ever. They just don't have any work ethic. And it seems like they're having to work more than ever for the same amount of paycheck that their mothers and fathers and their grandparents did. They have to work more than ever. My girl, well, I have twin daughters, and my girlfriend always says, "How did her mother take care of four kids?" And I go, "Well, your mother lived around a bunch of people that were all family. Everybody helped together. The dad only worked one job, came home, was able to pay for everything, house, two cars, all that stuff on a one paycheck. Those days are done. Now we have to have multiple jobs to make the same amount of money, and we're moving so much, so fast. We don't have time to eat a proper meal. We're running and gunning constantly. And then the powers that be have been constantly just feeding us poison, and it's always under the belief or that the guys, I guess that would be the words I'm saying, that it's about making it cheaper. Right, we gotta make it cheaper. That's why we put these chemicals in it. And in reality, I think it's to make us dumber and fatter and just more depressed more than ever. People are just the food has so much more chemicals in it than it ever did before. In there, I don't know what your guys' thoughts on that, but he seems to be talking along the lines of all the poisons in the food. Do you guys have any thoughts on RFK Jr.? I mean, do we have any hope at all? He was an environmental lawyer who won a couple things. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's cut his teeth winning lawsuits against, I believe some pharmaceutical companies as well. But, ultimately, it's not very often you're going to run into a guy like Will who has the level of knowledge, for 40 years of ag expert, being able to clean up forever chemicals and pesticide residues and even uranium contamination in a matter of months out of soil with protocols, giving people massive yields far beyond their dreams at the same time, being able to take care of livestock and honeybees and understand that the way I view things, and I think without a doubt, I'm sure Will uh, agrees because we've talked about this, is that the earth is just one big organism and we're just critters on that organism. We all need the exact same thing. uh, minus the manure you might spread for soil for fertility. Besides that, a fertility program, the things that go into the soil, I should be able to take a coffee cup and scoop that foliar spray up that I'm going to spray on a crop, and I should be able to drink it, and it's supposed to do me a lot of good, right? Because people have to understand our food used to have the 90 essential nutrients in it, the minerals and nutrients in it. Well, that's all been mined out of the ground. So we've got to figure out ways, which we have, to put back into the soil along with the microorganisms that belong there to clean up the rest of the mess and keep things operating correctly. That's the gut biome. That's the gut biome that's supposed to be from the soil to the plant to the animal to us, or from the plant to us. That's the gut biome, right? That is the natural living. That's vitality. That's life. That's the way that all of this is supposed to work. But when you mass murder the a billion acres of soil with chemicals for 50 or 60 years, and you mine all the nutrients out of it, well, what do you expect? The American people, all you got to do is stand in a shopping mall or a grocery store and look at the people walking past you. Everybody's mentally, physically, hormonally, just everybody's destroyed. And then they tell you that you're crazy for saying that, right?
You're
Because
so right, dude. That's the big, don't trust your eyes or your ears.
right,
These
yeah,
people are the happy people. These people are the evil. And it seems like it's the other way around. The people trying to tell me how to live my life on the left always seem a little bit more miserable than the other people. And it's like, I don't want to know what your pronouns are. I want to know what psych meds you're on. Tell me that instead of your pronoun. It's
that's the
like,
thing is most of the we. I mean, look at our politicians. The vast majority of them are probably on a minimum of 10 pharmaceuticals apiece. They're whacked out of their gourds, bro. They're whacked out of their gourds.
I agree. I agree, Doctor. Where did all this begin? Is in your research and your vast experience in the agriculture and all that, where do you think we started to go wrong? Where was the first point in which this journey to where we are began? Do you believe?
You can thank Rockefeller.
Always,
So
dude.
always.
Always that name.
You can thank yeah, because this natural way of looking at things was the thing that kept people alive and well prior to basically the late 1800s. And so between the late 1800s and like the mid 1920s, the whole thing changed. And that's when they started using copper sulfate and these other chemicals on these orchards and so forth, like in Yakima Valley, because the bugs started getting bad because they were using the soil was getting mined out. Then the plants become unhealthy because of the nutrient density goes away. Then the plants give off a signal and say, "Here, come eat me because I'm unhealthy." And so then the vast knowledge of those educated Rockefellerians back in the 20s, they started using pesticides, which were metal, copper sulfate, on cherries and apples and things in the Yakima Valley. That was like the first advent of pesticides. And then it's just went downhill from that point. But they forgot that the unhealthy plant was calling the bugs in to break it down, just like us. We're so unhealthy as humans. Like infections are just rampant in people, which are the bugs, basically. And so it's
Doctor, do you think they knew that? Do you think that they knew that it was that cycle where when the trees start to die, the flies start to come in, and it's
I don't think they know that anymore, because prior to Rockefeller changing the educational system, that was common knowledge. And once you change the education, you have one or two generations go through that disinformation programming, and then that becomes the new truth.
And it's so crazy because you're listening to people all the time talk about trust the experts, and trust the experts gotten us to where we are. Disease is high, cancer's high, overweight is high, ignorance
Yeah.
seems to be high, all done on purpose. And it's like, so, XG, if you're asking if it was purposeful, I 100% believe it was purposeful. I believe that these demons, these energy vampires are part of this thing to destroy humanity. And I think it's all done on purpose to make us so dumb and unhealthy we don't know how everything works.
because what they were supposed to do was move the cattle to other parts of the land, right, and let that soil regrow or refurbish or whatever you would call it. That's what they were supposed to do, right?
Well, you're talking about when they move them around,
When
so
you're
like
when you rotationally graze, they call that, or intensive grazing. Yeah, you let the animal on this section of grass for just a little while, not to kill it, but just to mow it down a little bit, and then you move it, and then let it have a rest and regrowth period. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking in yes, exactly.
And
Yeah,
the
it's
thing is, and Will can expound upon this even more, as well as, herbicides, for instance, learning from Will and Steve, that the soil test, what's void in the soil out of all those essential minerals and nutrients. Well, then when you go out and pick the weeds and you test the weeds, or the herbs is what they're supposed to be called, that each one of those herbs are pulling different elements out of the atmosphere, so that when they die, they're putting those elements back into the soil to heal the land. That's the way nature's supposed to, that's nature trying to fix the soil, right? But what do farmers do? They see the weeds and they go out and spray them with poison, more poison, when they're killing the messenger, right? And that's why, if you're deficient in certain nutrients, elements, why there's certain herbs that pull that out of the atmosphere, that when you micronize that and put it in a capsule or a tea or whatever, that's why your illnesses go away, because you were lacking those minerals, those elements for your proper immune function.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Sam, I just wanted to ask, do you think you can be healthy and live next to a freeway? Is that possible? Can you have a healthy life and live right next to a freeway? Like in a major city? Is that possible?
So the term health, the way you're using it, is a very subjective, because that has a wide
Your term,
wide
the way you would
bandwidth.
define it. Let's say the way you would define health. Can you be a healthy person and live next to a active freeway like in LA, like we all do?
Not unless you're doing massive amount of supplementation. Okay, I lived in California down there, in Woodland Hills area for a while, and so I'm very familiar. I've been all over the LA area. I'm very familiar with that, like right out, especially right after a rain, that gritty feeling on your tongue, on the inside of your lips from all the crap in the air. So that stuff gets into you. All right, so you're going to have to be extremely vigilant on keeping yourself not eating crap, supplementation, because your body is in such an unnatural, high-stressed environment on all levels when you're living there like that. It is definitely not going to be easy. You're going to have to work at it, and unfortunately, it's going to cost some money, because you can't grow this stuff. You can't get these supplements that are actually going to get you well very, very easily, because some of us know what it takes, and most of the supplements on the market are crap at best, and so it's going to take a little bit. So is it going to be easy? No. Is it? I would never live there. That's why I don't live there. I was there for a reason for a year, then I left because I had a purpose being there, and but I left. I live out in the country. I do go back and forth into cities, but I can tell you, when I'm there for like weeks on end and then leave, what a difference. When you get out and experience fresh air, which that's a subjective statement anymore, and it also, but you get at least out of the heavy congestion, your body then can start. One thing is just relax, because you don't have all the noise and crap.
I'm with you on that. When you're in this heightened state of anxiety, your immune system shot, and you're getting sick, and you're miserable, and you're depressed, and these energy vampires feed off that in so many different ways. That
yeah. And going back to your question real quick about being able to live in LA and being healthy, it's everywhere, right? So the state of Iowa, where I'm from, the soil and the water are so bad from ag chemicals that the cancer rates are 50% higher than anywhere else in the country. And that's, becoming systemic across the country, to be honest with you. But also because the pharmaceutical companies have taken over the supplement industry as well, and the agriculture industry. Now only 90 or 95% of our food is grown with synthetics. So the healing properties of our food is gone, except for maybe 5%. And on that note, stays right within that, because our supplements are supposed to have come from nutrient-rich food, micronized food, concentrated nutrients to help your health, speed your health up, right, more quickly. So only 5% of all supplements aren't created in a laboratory. So you're not going to move the needle with laboratory created garbage. That's why, somebody taking vitamins and minerals from, GNC or wherever, and doing a protein powder, all of these things are synthetics. Well, because they're young, they might not be getting sick or getting cancer or whatever yet, but they think that that's what's keeping them healthy. They're just running on youth. Yeah, and you've got to look at the way that I look at the world now is there's the real world and everything in it, and then there is a counterfeit, patented, synthetic counterfeit for everything from real agriculture nutrient inputs into the soil to fake NPK petroleum-based fertilizers, right? There's fake breasts, there's fake acids, there's fake lips, there's fake money now. Fiat currency is created out of debt, right?
It's crazy.
It has no tangible asset. The fake education system, the fake, I mean, there is a duplicate literally for everything real in this country right now. And people are being moved toward that transhumanism, synthetic existence, while the world is being destroyed with synthetics as well and toxified to the point where people are like, I don't even want to be in the real world anymore. You know, they're like, upload my consciousness in the metaverse. And again, meanwhile, 20 states have legalized liquefying human corpses and using that as fertilizer on farm fields. Google that one.
I want to go back to touch on this other bit because what you talked about, we're so toxic right now. I mean, I think the job is almost complete for the toxicity level that they're now easily saying these things in public, which we knew in the 80s, some of us, that it was bad in the 80s, let alone and today. And I think it's so bad now that everyone is so implanted with so much crap that they're even saying these things because the technology says that we're right there on the precipice of what the tech guys are installing into people, that we are nodes on the internet, and we are the batteries for that system. Like, it's right there right now. And that's why I think they're even talking, JFK and all those guys are even talking about it, because it's already here. Like, you're already seen very easily because most people are so malnutrition and loaded with metal, and they're so living in perpetual state of fight or flight that with the technology that's there, they're easily seen as already part of the system. Like, the damage is already done, and it's like they're just easily talking about the toxicity levels. And they're now the stuff coming out with, I don't know if you've watched Sabrina Wallace or
we love her. I can't get a hold of her. I want to get a hold of her so badly.
Well, so a lot of that information, especially that Chris is talking about now, is because I'm aware of that, and we've been testing for it, and I'm aware of all this stuff. So Sabrina coming out is fantastic in what she says, and the way Chris has been putting things together. But there's a way out. Like I say, there's solutions to some of this stuff, which what we talked about earlier is part of that. But I'm saying, though, that the job's done for the most part. That's why they're saying these things in public.
Yeah, and you've got to, and then on top of that, you know, the technology within the cells, the synthetics, the heavy metals. Well, that's the very thing that we know how to chelate or transmute and get rid of out of the body, right? And fix. So a lot of active duty military people who have had health issues, along with civilians, of course, but a lot of active duty, some of which I know very closely, I'm not going to say who, high level, you know, special forces guys who have been damaged by these treatments starting in 2021, severely damaged. And we've been able to reverse that damage by removing the synthetics and heavy metals, the self-assembling nanotech and those things out of their bodies, because that's what these components were designed to do. Not by us, but by our creator, by nature. However, you know, you can look up, research antioxidants' ability to remove heavy metals and synthetics, chelate them from the system. That's what they're designed to do by nature, right? Antioxidants, berries, grapes, fruits, certain vegetables, the antioxidant properties of those, had they been still grown with real nutrients in the soil, have the power to be able to chelate, bind with, and pull those toxins out, right? So we have that to consider. We know that this works. We've seen it. We've seen the damage and then the damage reversed in thousands of people. Number one. Okay. Number two, when we look at genetic modification of any corporation that has a patented process to alter something that exists in nature, they patent the process, and then if they're successful, they own that seed or that mosquito, that honeybee, or now with mRNA technology and CRISPR technology, potentially humans, because that is a patented process to alter. They call it gene therapy in humans, not genetic modification. They call it gene therapy, but it's the exact same thing and altering genetics. So then we come into patent property issues and liabilities. And I'm honestly waiting, and I joke around about it to a certain extent, but it's really not a joke. I'm waiting for Pfizer and Moderna to start arguing who owns these people.
I
That's
wouldn't
not
doubt
even-
it, dude.
That's not even funny. Why do you think the medical system draws 18 tubes of blood every time you go in? Why? They do that because then they test those tubes to make sure that you're taking your pharmaceutical drugs and that you're genetically modified because you've taken their patented stuff, and now you're patentable because they can prove your genetics have been changed by their patented process. Now you're patented, just like getting injected with the naughty.
This
And
is not a
now
joke.
this is not a joke. I know a nurse that it's her job. That's all she does is reports certain things to certain agencies and certain pharmaceutical companies. This has been going on since the late 90s. I live next door to a nurse that was her job. And so this is you have a medical straw man like you have a corporate straw man or a financial straw man. It's mirrored now. It's all meshed into one. Why do you think 500 billion just got dumped into data centers? This is to manage the whole corporate, medical, agricultural mafia mess.
It's unbelievable, dude. It's
So,
just like these
that's why-
predators
that's
never
why-
stop hunting.
But that's why all of the years of my research for 38 years of trying to build better human beings, superhumans that could do incredible things and win world titles and do a lot of other things. And I cross paths with this guy, and I sit back and listen to him talk to microbiologists from the military that are doing research on our programs, and they're listening to him, turning their head sideways and squinting their eyes like, what is this guy talking about? Trying to understand how to do the test on the programs, because they're look, these are high-level military microbiologists, and they still don't understand the shit he's saying.
That's
Right?
because they were taught clinical science.
Yeah.
Clinical science is not natural science. It's completely two different realities, but the people don't know. They just see the word science, which really science of today. And I'll leave you with this quote that this comes from Dr. Michael Steffi, one of my mentors. Science of today is nothing more than merely advanced marketing tools for industry. There hasn't been any true science since the 50s, according to Dr. Michael.
Yeah, everybody is controlled. They don't want to piss off the money.
Well, and ultimately it comes down to this, is that we know there's natural substances, existing substances, that will remove synthetics and heavy metals from the body, that will correct a lot of cellular operations, that will fix gut biome, fix nervous system issues, brain issues, things like that. And that's why, we put that regeneration kit together to assist people. And look, this is all about make it very clear that from my point of view, that there is no such thing as disease. It does not exist. It is just manifestations of inflammation depending on your genetics and how those chemicals, those heavy metals affect your particular genetics and where that's going to manifest at, whether it's respiratory, digestive, arthritis, whatever those problems end up being. That's where genetics come in to me in terms of my understanding and how immune function is affected, period. And I've seen this ever since I healed myself 38 years ago. I've sat back and observed this and watched it with thousands of people, and he's done it, 25,000 times.
Quick question. I have a feeling you guys might have some thoughts about the role of LDL and heart disease and what we're told about the origins of heart disease. Do you have
You're gonna get Will going now, buddy.
Yeah, I suspected I might.
Go ahead.
I choose not to talk about that whole thing because it's all based on some premises that, for one, your heart is regulated to X amount of things because of your height and your weight and your whatever, and it doesn't fluctuate. Because I can walk up to your face right now and I'm going to smack you right on the right, boom, right on your face. What's going to happen? Okay, your blood pressure is going to go right up. You're going to clench your fists and grit your teeth. You know, your heart is just going to start pounding. You know, there's our bodies respond to our environment, and so when you're eating diesel fuel, I mean vegetable oil, when you're consuming a high amount of grains, cereal grains, nuts and seeds, it don't matter if it's organic or not, you're basically poisoning yourself. Okay, when you take in poison, your body responds in a certain way. So your LDL and now your cholesterol level, because we need cholesterol. I mean, our brain's like 100% cholesterol. Okay, cholesterol to me is AKA repair and rebuild. You know, that cholesterol that was made in our body, in our liver, that is a repair mechanism. I don't look at things that way. I think there's enough information out there. The whole cholesterol con, it's the name of a book. There's a whole bunch. I got like 10 books on the fraud and cholesterol and the pushing of the numbers up and down and whatever over the last 50 years. Same with blood pressure. Same with a lot of these things is there. Here again, clinical science is creating marketing tools for the pharmaceutical and medical industry to then basically bullshit you with a narrative, get you to believe it because you trust those people. It's called the Stockholm syndrome, and then you take their drugs. Right. To then be forced modifying up and down with things, when in fact is in the natural science world, if our immune system functioned, if our digestion functioned, if our nervous system functioned, if all our metabolisms were functioning based on response to environmental stimuli like the way we are created, then our cholesterol levels, our blood pressure levels, all those levels would be constantly in flux like they're supposed to be to then keep us balanced and well.
Right on.
Amazing, dude. I feel like cancer is along the lines of that, right? I mean, like,
I believe cancer is part of the just the well, we all have cancer, so then we got to look at now now you open that worm down. Oh man, so now we got to define cancer.
Well, and what is cancer? Is it parasites? Is it
exactly
parasite eggs? Is it toxins given off by parasites? You know, all the above. You know, there's
again,
all kinds of, you know.
Again, you have clinical science, and now there's the natural science view. So because we can test for these things. Okay, I just tested a guy, one of Pat's buddies, today, who they got him talked into, I forget, some kind of like bladder or lung cancer or something like that, and they got him. He had a round of chemotherapy or something, and it didn't work, and he felt worse. And so, okay, so I'm looking at his scan because we're scanning for all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, dude's got immune system function that's almost zero. He has got infections like through the roof, like parasites, worms, flukes. Is high, bacteria is high, fungus and mold is absolutely high, aflatoxins through the roof, heavy metals through the roof, and no immune function. Now, I did pick up heavy radiation and a lot of chemicals because he just had some medical medical chemotherapy. But again, cancer. He had zero. I look at, we have a file called carcinomas, which is, I don't know, there's hundreds of kinds of cancer in that one, not one. It was zero. And he was being treated for what? Cancer.
Oh my God, really?
He had zero, but he had massive amount of infections. Okay, and aflatoxins and mycotoxins, which are basically the poop from the infections that the body has to deal with. So
What?
I know this, that I've got a book that's this thick that I got out of the medical system. that when they pull a biopsy, they take the material out of the biopsy, they put it in a petri dish, clinical science, and then they grow out whatever organism that grows out in the cellular. They watch it, how fast it grows, and what organism that's there. There's actually a cross reference from the organism and the cell count in the petri dish to a cancer diagnosis, and that is legal, boys.
So they're trying to find cancer.
Well, of course, because we all have it.
They're
We
defining
all have it.
parasites. They're defining parasites or parasite shit or parasite nests of parasite
As
eggs
cancer.
as cancer.
I had a guy.
God, I could talk to you guys all day.
I've
That's
got
so
stories.
crazy.
I got one story about that, and I'll just leave it at that. I've got hundreds. I had one guy. We were picking up tapeworm colony. It was in his duodenum, and it was big. It was a mat. You could feel it from the outside. I mean, when I'm talking a baseball size growth, it was just sticking out right there by his xiphoid process. So anyhow, I test them. I say, well, you got parasites. You know, here's the deal. And here's where they are. Let's start doing that. Well, he started on the program, and he called it sick. Well, he was going a little too aggressive. He wanted to hammer everything down, and it started making him sick. So he quit. He went back to Queen's University Cancer Hospital in New York. Yes, they told him he had stomach cancer. They literally went in and took the tumor out, which was a tapeworm colony nest. I have it in writing somewhere that it was the tapeworms causing the cancer. They got him a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. They cut this big tumor out. They then sewed his stomach into his small intestine. He then ended up not doing my stuff, but he ended up doing the chemotherapy and radiation, and he was dead in no time. Now, that's happened multiple times. That's how that's just like standard process for stomach cancer. You might as well, every single stomach cancer person I've seen with that diagnosis all had either a tapeworm or a roundworm infection in their duodenum.
Horrible.
Unbelievable, man.
But to treat the parasite is a really inexpensive revenue stream versus treating cancer.
Unbelievable. What's your take on ivermectin?
Well, I've been using it since I was a kid because when Dad wormed the cattle, he wormed the kids, he wormed the hired men's families and kids. Everybody got wormed when we wormed the cattle. And so I've been just doing it. I've doused my kids with it. I've eaten buckets of paste. I've had it dumped on me, rubbed on me, on my feet. You know, I prefer the liquid injectable kind because it's easier to take orally, and it's more potent than the paste. It tastes better than the paste. Ivermectin is a wonderful tool because it not only knocks your parasite load down, it also helps to knock the other infections like funguses down. It also is a really good for helping the body to chelate because it does something on the cell to help the chelation process happen, but it also knocks down the infections and boosts the immunity that way as well. So it also breaks down like tumors and stuff. It kind of works like serapeptase that way, where there's some enzymatic process in there that actually helps to break some of these egg nests and tumors down, and get that out of the body as well. And
Quick
so
question.
does fenbendazole. Fenbendazole is a similar process.
What do you think about alkaline water?
I think it's great to bathe with.
Here we go.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I
You're
would
gonna love
never. So I'm gonna just tell you that most everything in the natural health industry is designed to harm you to some extent. Because it's run by the same people that bring you, Viagra and Cialis. So our body, we're a biological computer / battery. You got to have a positive and negative. You got to have a acidic part of you and an alkaline part of you. And by nature, if everything was running right, that from your mouth to your rectum is the more acidic part. And the tissue is more of the alkaline part. And so when you force alkalize orally, you're causing a polarity reversal and actually causing a lot of downstream metabolic problems over time. Because when
Wow.
you put alkaline stuff in here and you swallow the alkalinity, you're forcing the body to then change a normal acidic condition in your stomach and intestines to an alkaline, which forces your body tissue to become more acidic. So in that reversal process, you then have a problem with a lot of things: neurology, muscles, joints. Just there's a lot of problems in that reversal. Because here's the thing: we wouldn't need even the thought of alkalinity and acidity if we were eating properly, our foods weren't toxic, our environments weren't toxic, and we were not in a perpetual state of fight or flight. Because when you're in a perpetual state of fight or flight, your body chemistry is totally thrown off. And that's really clear in a book called The Biology of Aggression, written in 1980 by NATO. You can look that up. That book used to cost like $1,000 as well. I got my first copy of that in the 90s for a dime at a garage sale. So look around. But this is why I don't like forcing I don't like forcing to alkalize through your mouth. That's not the book. That's you got to go to the same name. Go to NATO, or the author is one of the authors is Brain, Paul Brain or something, but it's the NATO, and it's got to be the 1980 version. There's some subtle differences in the 2012 edition. You got to go to the original one. And anyhow, because everyone is in such a perpetual state of fight or flight, which they're going to run. They're going to run acidic. They're going to run low oxygen just on its face. You're going to be in basically perpetual adrenal fatigue. Because of that, your pituitary gland, your pineal gland, they're just going to be just overtaxed. And just your body chemistry is going to be off. So trying to alkalize orally is similar to pissing on a bonfire. Plus, you're pissing with high alcohol fuel.
You can also give yourself GERD, right? Gastrointestinal reflux, right? From
Johnny, we can't see you.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
My camera's overheated. Is that correct?
Sounds like
The conversation's that good it overheated his camera. Can you believe that?
yeah. No, this is fire. This is fire. I'm not gonna keep you guys all day. Johnny, did you get to answer your question?
Yeah, he said yes. Yeah, I mean, it's
Okay.
because it's a counterintuitive thing. Most people think that if they have acid reflux, that it's because of an acidic environment, and really, it could be quite the opposite.
You know what? So acid reflux, for the most part, okay. So you definitely have a microbial imbalance. You got an immune system problem. You generally have a tapeworm or a roundworm infection right there at the duodenum, at the exit of the stomach. You then have a diet high in cereal grains, nuts, seeds, or anything products made from them. You don't have the enzymatic balance. You're in a perpetual state of fight or flight. I mean, there's your GERD, there's your IBS, there's your 80-some different intestinal tract diseases, all right there for the most part. And then you throw on all the chemical medical interventions on top of that, which just exaggerates all of that. Or you can just smoke weed. Okay, and most of your weed is so out of balance because it's been stressed beyond belief.
Yeah.
You know, the weed
chemicals.
isn't even medicine anymore because it has PTSD, because it is in a stress state, because that's what THC is. THC is a stress state. It's a stress response. You really, if you grow like our hemp that we grow, our cannabis we grow, it has 0 THC naturally living on the plant because we do everything to ensure that plant's peace, harmony, nutrition, immune function is there, and there's no THC. THC is actually a response. Let's see. If THC was a visual, it would be like an Ethiopian kid. That would be leprosy.
THC. Or leprosy.
Leprosy or something, exactly. Like, and so, like, that's what they call medicine, which actually does all kinds of bad metabolic. I think that's why they actually allow it to be legal, because THC is actually by itself, these high THC things, is actually causing more problems downstream, especially your testosterone loss, especially the brain functioning on an electrical metabolic state. It's not medicine anymore. It's just not. So anyhow, I sorry I go off on tangents.
No,
So.
it's great. I'm
Good,
just
you're
telling
good.
you, when something's everywhere all the time, you should really ask yourself, well, how is that possible? When they shut down, listen, you want to find out what's good or bad? Look at what was allowed to happen during COVID and what was allowed not to happen during COVID. In California, what was allowed during COVID?
Weed and alcohol.
Weed stores, okay? Amazon Fresh.
Fast food.
Do your things. Fast food.
Couldn't go to church.
Couldn't go to church. Couldn't work
Gym's
out.
closed.
Couldn't get out in the sun. That's it, dude. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. This episode was beyond awesome. I can't thank you enough for coming on. Pat, you know I love you. I have a personal relationship with you, and I love you so much. You look great, man. Your energy is great, buddy. I can't tell you, like, you're beaming, dude. So it's so great to see you and I are brothers. Dr. Wil, thank you so much, man. I'm so thankful you came on and joined us, and it was just an all-time epic episode. I learned so much from it. My final question, it will be Tuesday. If I want to get to a nutritionist, do you guys have any recommendations, or should I go locally?
There's no nutritionist that's worth their weight in spit, because they're taught clinical science. Clinical nutrition is death nutrition. Okay, it's that simple. Natural thing, it's two separate worlds. Clinical nutrition is only there for the slave work unit to just keep them barely alive, but yet sick enough to keep drawing money off them until they're dead. That's clinical nutrition in my book, because what most clinical nutritionists are taught, that's why my mentors kept me from going down that path. They pointed at me and said, no, don't do that. Go over here. And so this is where I'm more of the keto or actually more carnivore living foods, that the rock to rot theory. If it won't rot on your counter within the first 7 days of sitting there, you should not eat it.
Huh. Such a good idea. I've heard there's, and again, I don't put much credence in any research, but I've heard research recently suggesting that low carb, which is something has always been good for me and made me feel healthier, can disrupt the biome, in the gut. Do you think there's any truth to that? What is that from? Do you suspect?
I believe it disrupts it in a good way.
In a good way. Okay.
Absolutely. It's you feed a dog graham crackers and sugar, and then you switch the dog. Then you switch the dog over to a carnivore diet, the way it's supposed to be eating. There's a massive transition period there, and so it's all in how you look at it. You want your dog sick and stinky and hip problems and all that, or you want a dog that's eating real stuff that goes outside and it's a totally different animal just by changing that diet. And it's very disruptive changing the diet. And we're no different, because we have a short digestive tract like a dog. So when you change your diet over to a more of a food that rots really fast, you're going to have a lot of change in your body as well.
Right on.
So crazy. Great episode. One more time, guys. Where would you like people to come and check you out?
Just go to Mineral King and order that
There you go.
regeneration kit. And look, you're going to have some detox symptoms potentially. You might have a little bit of the runs. That's toxins coming out of you. You might feel kind of sluggish. You might even have a dull headache or something, but drink a lot of water with that and flush your system out. And after, 2-3 days of detoxing, your endurance, your breathing, your inflammation, all of those things will subside greatly. And we've seen I'm telling you, some incredible stuff endurance wise out of endurance athletes with that protocol.
I'm a little more liberal on the 2 to 3 day. I say sometimes it could take a couple weeks Just all depends on your state of ill health that you consider health.
Yeah, and toxicity. Yeah.